the studio of your mom's basement comes a podcast by two idiots in a revolving door of legends and has-beens from the oldest university in Texas. This is Purple, Gold, and Getting Old.
Well, me and Andy had an eventful weekend.
I'll say.
Was it a good weekend?
No.
I mean,
I had fun.
I say
Till the end.
you can't base a good or bad weekend just because of a win or loss. I mean, it was still fun, but
can I just
better?
Can I just? We don't have drinks because we here's something. I just kind of want to like pour one out for the boys, and the boys being Baylor, Texas A&M, Houston, Dallas Cowboys, the Houston Tech. Like, if you're from Texas and you're not Texas Tech, and even that was close, like,
although
it was a rough go.
I wish that I was on old Rocky Top down in the Tennessee hills.
Even on Friday night, my high
I want to
school
congratulate.
Team lost, so I'm like, what the heck?
I want to congratulate Tyler and all the Tennessee fans, but I know that the moment I do, Tennesseeism will kick in.
No, I'll tell you this. I was at the airport during the second half waiting. And so I could have watched the game on my phone fine. But I was in such a bad mood and it was still kind of close. And we ended up going to overtime. I never actually clicked play. I just kept checking back the score because it was like, I can't do it right now. I just knew that Tennessee was going to fall apart. And I'm like, I can't. I don't have it in me.
I got to tell you, I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, my first doctor's appointment in a year, to determine whether or not I needed to go back on blood pressure medication or not. Uh-oh. Can I just say that was the worst possible weekend to have before? I'm still good and I don't have to go back on it. But
there you go.
Man, I the whole time I'm sitting there like, I'll put it this way, and we're going to get to the Whitewater thing, but let's just say that the final drive of the Whitewater game was the same minute of the teeter-totter between Bama and Texas, and I had both going on at the same time. So watching both in 1 minute was too much. I don't recommend doing that.
Well, like we said earlier, you can't judge a trip based on the outcome of the game. And actually, some of our best trips have been, or maybe our best trip ever was a loss to
Mississippi. What's up?
Which is still a podcast for another day.
Maybe.
It really is.
What's the statute of limitations in today's climate?
But this is really cool. Like some
30 years after you die.
Some of my best memories in college are road tripping with y'all. And we kept it in Texas. It went out a little bit further every now and then. But you always heard about like these legendary locations of like Alliance and Perkins Stadium in Whitewater. And so I was just thinking, a while back.
And the college formerly known as Wesley.
Yeah. St. John's, and so I was thinking a while back, I'm like, man, if I get the opportunity to go some of these like great D3 places, I want to do that. Like, let's just do like an adult version of these trips where it's like not every weekend, but like once every couple of years, let's just fly out and hit these places up. And well, we just so happened to get that. I texted Andy one night and I said, hey, I'm thinking about this. And what was your response?
I don't remember the exact thing, but it was basically just, well, a Crusader doesn't walk alone, so let's go.
Yeah.
I think my response was,
yeah, good luck, guys. Yeah. Well, it was pretty eventful. I flew up to Dallas first and met Andy there. And normally on big trips like Stag Bowl stuff, I'll be decked out in purple and gold just to make, it's cool to like see other crew in the airports. But I was thinking, man, there's not going to be many people. I'm not worried about it. So I just dressed normally. But right before we got in our flight, I saw an old man in a crew hat. I'm like, hey, man, I like your hat. Go crew. And then this guy was such a character. I can't even on this podcast tell you everything he said.
I have a bleeper.
I wouldn't repeat it even if I didn't have a bleeper.
But he was very excited to be there. And he didn't think very highly of Whitewater. I'll say that. And
that's an understatement.
Yeah. And just making loud comments about other people around us. And the people looked at it and goes, oh, did I say that too loud? I don't have my hearing aid in. And I'm just wanting to like slowly back away.
Yeah.
But yeah, funny. Definitely started our experience off with a bang.
Yes.
Hey, so speaking of people with no filter, I have to give a shout out to somebody I had a conversation with last week for the first time in a while. Brent Lloyd, if you're watching this episode, it was good talking to you, and congratulations on Nebraska getting a new coach.
Love it. Shout out Brent Lloyd. Briar Tuck, the original, the OG. Yeah, so Friday night, kind of just get to check it out. This was only my second time being in the Midwest after Ohio in winter. I'll say summer is better than winter in Ohio,
but not by much.
Your only trips to the Midwest have been like the past year for crew games?
Yeah,
that's impressive.
Why else would I go to the Midwest?
Andy and I went to Iowa.
Like Andy and I guess that counts.
Yeah,
but same reason.
That.
Yeah, the only reason I can think to go to the Midwest is if I'm going for a Division III football game. would not want to live there. You know what was funny? I tweeted on the PGO account, just a corn flying by, and I was like, Midwest as advertised. I was kind of thinking of it as like a poking at them a little bit. But then a bunch the Reddit college football account retweeted.
Yeah.
A bunch of people started getting it. And a lot of the Midwesterners were like, yes, it's amazing. I love it. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm happy that you love it. To each their own.
I will say for anyone listening, so I rarely tweet. Like we're both logged into the account, but I rarely even bother with the Twitter portion.
Yeah.
I do the Instagram stuff. And neither of us do much of the Facebook page, but
there is a Facebook
funny.
page?
Yeah, we just post the videos to it. Like here it is, but we've actually picked up listeners from it, so I can't dog it. But
that's true.
It was funny to me because I forget. Right when I forget that I'm logged in, will be right when Tyler has like one of our better traffic tweets. So my phone starts blowing up with like Reddit, D3 huddle, and all this stuff, and all this. I'm like, what did I say? Like I go to my personal Twitter. I'm like, what did I say? Like, oh.
Yeah, that was funny. We so we got to check out Whitewater a little bit that day. We sat on top of a hill, like overlooking all of their tailgate, which, by the way, if I give them props for one thing, these people knew how to tailgate. They had an entire parking lot full of tailgates with RVs, and they had more than one parking lot.
The picture you posted where y'all were on the hill, did it fill up more than that later?
Yes, that was
significantly. That was very early.
But when I posted that, it was 9:30 in the morning. So
I'm gonna touch on that later in my Whitewater story.
Okay. And what was really cool that we see the buses driving up with that of like UMHB players with like their police escort and all that, and it was totally an accident, but just as kind of a coincidence, the sound system that was there started playing X Going to Give It to You, and I like that, like it was like a perfect soundtrack for them showing up, like right as they come up. It was like I'm like, yeah, let's go.
It was fun.
It was fun. So we get to go see get to briefly say hey to Coach Harmon, wish him luck, dap him up a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
I wasn't even there, and I realized you skipped something. Y'all went to a baseball game the night before. So y'all sports fandom was like extra.
Yeah,
we hit off the Brewer game.
Yeah, dude, the weather was so perfect. It was so nice and cool up there. Just open roof. Just got to sit and watch baseball and eat sausage, basically. It was I was confusing.
And then not to mention
do what?
The sausage run or the sausage race.
Oh my gosh. They had so sausage is big up there. They had a sausage race. And there was a race that like I could never see happening in Texas. I feel like it's just because Wisconsin is like 95% white. They're like, is this fine? Yeah, I think this is fine. So they have all these sausages that are from like different ethnic backgrounds. So they've got like a German sausage and like lederhosen. They've got like a hot dog and a cowboy hat or something. Mm-hmm. But then did they have chorizo?
It was the chorizo dog
in a sombrero and with like a big goatee
with the full nasty stash, like full on.
And they were like selling dolls of the chorizo sausage guy and everything. And I was like, can we do this? Is this still a thing? I feel like
it's fine.
So that was
we're not going to pretend that chorizo was invented in, like, I don't know, Idaho.
No, I know. It's just the overly stereotypical kind of.
It was a bit much.
Yeah, it was a little over the top. But so it was fun. We confused the people around us because we were really just cheering for chaos.
Yes.
And so like we were going left and right. People like, who are they rooting for? So that was a lot of fun. Just and then we got back to the hotel, and there were a bunch of people at kind of the hotel bar watching the US Open, and we met the biggest tennis fan I've ever met in my life.
I didn't know these people existed.
Telling us all about like stats and this and that. Let's go! He's gonna break the serve! Woo! I didn't know tennis people were like this. I just think of
he was talking to us like he thought we knew what was going on, and I'm like, I know that they serve and they hit back and forth and they volley. That's about all I know about tennis.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the day of actual Whitewater. Great tailgating scene. A lot of people showed up. They were pretty late though. And here's my thing on, because I was super excited to see this big Whitewater crowd. There ended up being just below 15,000 people. They said it was the 13th ranked highest attended Division III game of all time.
I believe it.
So really great. But the crowd only did not get loud when their team really needed them. They only got loud when things went good.
It was like the fourth quarter when they really got loud.
Yeah. Well, once things started,
we can't talk.
I know, but there were like big third downs. We're you need your crowd like yelling, and they were just quiet. It was like they were so nervous and like clenched up.
Really?
We can't talk, but like usually we have like maybe 3,000 people. They had 14,000.
Yeah,
you can get loud with even just a few.
Well, it's bizarre to me
because I'm pretty sure there was a lot
this.
more alcohol involved in the Wisconsin crowd than there is at a Mary Hart.
That made them louder when I was there. I don't know. Yeah. It sounds like their fans and our fans have had some sort of similar de-evolution.
Yeah, so I was disappointed with them in that way, but UMHB is the same way. It's there were a reactionary fan base rather than a proactive fan base. A good fan base should be like proactive. Like when your team is down, you're still loud, you're making noise, you're trying to help your team get back into it, not just waiting for them.
Our fans get pretty loud when there's like 4 seconds left in the game.
Yeah.
If it's close.
Yeah. But I think if you were watching this, you know how the game ended. We don't have to go into how the game went. That sucked. But it just really is hard to believe that you can be up 3 points on the 1 yard line, first and goal, with like 2 minutes left, and you somehow lose the game.
I gotta ask something too, because I'm gonna give a quick negative shout out. Whoever was filming and broadcasting the game, that was one of the worst quality broadcasts I've watched in a long time regarding crew football, because there was no score or clock or anything on the bottom bar of the screen. They had a picture in a picture of someone filming the scoreboard at a distance where you could barely read it.
Yeah.
So if I looked away for 2 seconds, which happened a lot because I was also watching
Bama, that's Texas, why you kept asking me about
I had to get clarification because their camera kept shifting. And sometimes it would shake and the guy would refocus on it. But I don't know if there's wind or anything. But he kept moving. So you could only see half of our number. You could, the top half of whatever down and quarter and all that. You couldn't even get everything you needed from the scoreboard. So is it did I see it right with the shaky cameras that we were on the goal line and we threw to an open guy and he dropped it? Is that what happened?
Yeah.
So it's as bad as I thought.
It wasn't like 2013 where it just bounced off his chest. He got hit and it dropped him.
Okay.
So it's still not great, but it is what it is. Like I said, I don't really feel like the need to get that. All I'll say is this: my one big takeaway from this, because I saw a lot of people trying to blame over aggressive coaching decisions.
No,
and I try to remind people that in 13 we lost a semi to Whitewater because of too conservative. To me, it was. And I said earlier in the game, I don't know if I tweeted this or if I just told Andy it, but I felt like the game was going to be decided based on the Whitewater O-line versus the crew D-line. Because one thing I'm used to always seeing is our defensive guys just harassing the other quarterback. We get 0 sacks. It felt like they were never in the backfield. And Riley, shout out True to the Crew, brought up the stat that like this was the first time since I think he said 2018 that we've recorded 0 sacks in a game.
Jeez.
Wow.
That's just some big corn-fed Midwestern offensive linemen there doing their job. And so, but here's the thing. This is my positive spin on it, which is we are going to be so ready to go come playoffs. Like that was a huge learning opportunity. We were on the road. We really were the better team. I'm biased. I get it. But we were up most of the game. 99, if you play that game 100 times, I think we win it much more of the time. It was a crazy. And shout out to them. Like they were the ones who kept us out of the end zone in the end. But, we made some mistakes. There was a dropped pass earlier in the game in the end zone as well that would have been wide open. So, it is what it is. But I think we'll come back strong for playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think we'll be ready. I really do.
The only games that make so like when you're undefeated and the game that's on the line is Hardin-Simmons, it's like even we've had games in the past where like take example my senior year, we lost a game and still made playoffs, but as we saw last year, that's no longer always the case, and so it's like there's a little more nervousness going into not nervous. I think we're gonna win. But like when you're playing Hardin-Simmons, when you're when you're having that trip to Marshall where you're gonna win, but you still play like garbage. Like I don't know why we always play like garbage at Marshall. Like we still win by like 10 points, but I'm like 10 points when you're UMHB is like what the heck? So
for sure, with the only 5 at-large bids that are there for the Division III playoffs now, it's super hard to make it if you don't win your conference. So it puts so much more emphasis on HSU. Now, luckily, we already have a great out-of-conference ranked win versus Muhlenberg, and being the defending champions and losing on the road to Whitewater, and super close game as well. Like that's going to be looked on super favorably by the committee. So I'm not worried, but it does make you a little bit more cautious now.
Yeah. I was also saying earlier, Hardin-Simmons is going on a flight road trip for the first time since 2017. They're going up to Wisconsin, but they're playing Platteville this week, and then they come back down to play us. And so this is a perfect track game for them. Yeah. It really is.
Really need them to win for our SOS. But I really my heart is not in it. My brain says root for HSU, but my heart says nope. I'll root.
Well, I know we're gonna have a whole other episode about HSU again this year, but my question real quick is, will you both be in Abilene?
No.
Okay.
Probably not. No.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, because depending on what time we leave for Lubbock, I was saying me and Nathan could totally meet up with y'all for a bit, but I don't know what our travel schedule is yet.
I don't think I could possibly get another away.
No, my schedule starting this weekend through Thanksgiving, I have a church event every single weekend. So life's got to get real crazy for me. So I'll be back come playoffs.
There we go.
So game ends. I will say, me and Andy set the world record for getting out of the stadium as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
We left through an area we weren't even supposed to go through. I think they thought we were coaches. We got through so quick because they're like, no, stop. And they're like, oh, no, y'all come through. Because we got out like where the locker rooms were. And we
bolted.
Partially because we had a flight to get out. Yeah. And the airport was an hour away. But then also, you just don't want to be in that mess. But so it's been a rivalry back and forth over the years. A lot of bad memories, but we've had some good ones too. Garrett, why don't you tell us about your experiences with the wonderful world of Whitewater? And
part of me doesn't want to.
Me how podunk that town was. Holy moly.
We
had no clue.
Okay, so it was so iced over, we didn't really get to see.
Fair enough.
We could only get from the hotel to the stadium pretty much. But
made Belton look like Houston.
And yet look how many people are at their school.
That's ridiculous. We were driving out of Milwaukee, and the whole time we're there, we're like, okay, we know there's going to be like well over 10,000 people at this game, so there should be a population center, but it was just nothing.
I need one of you, Andy, you're so good at this. If you could look something up for me real quick.
What you got?
The undergrad enrollment at West Texas A&M. Because it used to be my metric for Whitewater. I used to they were about the same size, and it was just like anyone who's been to West Texas A&M and Canyon, or like A&M Commerce. It's like it was like playing them. It was that big of a
Well, I
size
want to
difference.
say Whitewater's attendance itself, I think I've heard, is like 15,000.
Yeah.
I don't know what Baylor's is now, but I remember at one time looking it up, and Whitewater had a bigger undergrad population.
Baylor's bigger than that these days, but
I'm sure
their trajectory is better. But I will say I don't know. I don't know how much Whitewater's growing, but West Texas A&M's growing a lot. And I just remember at the time, it was just like, wow, we're playing a school that is way bigger. I've heard, and I don't know if this is true, it's just hearsay, that Whitewater should be Division II, but because of the geography out there and the distance between the D2 schools in that region, there was just no conference situation that was good for them.
All right, here we go.
All right, what we got?
WT's undergrads is 7,300.
That can't be right, because it was at least 10 last I heard, unless maybe overall's 10.
Yeah, overall was 11.
Oh, okay.
And then
wow, I thought it was more than that.
Just randomly, Whitewater's undergrad is 11-1.
Okay, so bigger than West Texas A&M. So yeah, I'm gonna start my freshman year. This was, I believe, the first time the two teams ever played. And all we knew is that there was some monstrously good team coming to Belton for parent weekend. And I was that idiot freshman that would still wear the A&M shirt on campus because I thought I was going to transfer. It wasn't like I'm too good for this. It was just like,
you were one of those people.
Sort of. Most people who do that have no plan of actually transferring to the school they're wearing. They just wear it because they think they're too cool for school. But I was like, oh, well, it's the family school. I'm going to transfer there. All that. So I was looking at going to the A&M Baylor game that weekend. My parents call and they're like, hey, we're coming to parent weekend. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the crew game.
Okay.
Yeah. So my being a flaky freshman kind of ended right there. But they came down there and all we knew is that this team is really good, but we were kind of like, well, we're really good too. We beat Mount Union 2 years ago, like we were, it was still fresh off of the catch and fresh off of us finally being at the Stag Bowl. So we go to the game. It's a full house. Couch crew's full. The band is still over on the home side with a lot of our students. And then at the time, that student section was loud too. So it was, everybody was just going. And they scored on what was either the opening kickoff or first drive. I don't remember which, but 7-0 to start the game. And the game ended 7-3. So that was the day. That was the day we had. And I kid y'all not, and this would be unheard of now, but there were actually people who had this like agreement among the couch crew that if we won, we were going to storm the goalpost.
Gosh.
Which I was like, dude, I kind of want to jump on it, but this place is too small not to get caught. Like I was all like, let's do it, but I was scared to death. So that part of me was glad we didn't win, but we got in the field. It was weird because we're used to going on the field and we win and we unite with the team. We lost, but the cops still waved us on. So it was like, what do we do? So we rushed the field and we go out there and everyone's pretty calm and collected. The team wasn't really too down on themselves. Pete's out there. He's like, yep, this was setback, but 7-3 was a fight against a team they didn't even have us hanging in there with.
Am I right in remembering that is still the last regular season home loss?
Home loss?
Regular season?
I
think it is.
Correct, yeah.
I think so. So I seen it. And keep in mind, we'd already lost a game. We lost our opener at Christopher Newport.
Ooh.
So here I am, a kid who grew up as a battered Aggie fan, who's like, well, I'm going to go to a school that's good at football. And the first game, I'm listening to it live, and I'm just like, oh no, I've cursed this place. So here I am thinking I've screwed over UMHB. Fast forward to the next year. It was coming up on Thanksgiving or Christmas. No, it was after Thanksgiving. It was coming up on Christmas. I was dealing with what people would say was a just those first semester going Tyler during finals week every year. I was having that scenario. More like rejected before it gets off the ground, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was crushed, man. I was like, man, nothing's going my way this week. I just need to get out of Belton, but I have nowhere to go. I live 8 hours away. And I take a nap. I'm just like depressed. And I wake up and I look at my phone and there's a text from Farrah Dunaway that says, have you ever won the lottery? I was like, no, it's kind of been the opposite of that this week. And I replied, she's like, well, we have a plane ticket for you to Chicago. We're going to Whitewater. I was like, Cool. So,
Okay.
some of the cheer parents sponsored the trip, and we got to go because the school wasn't even sending us. And so I was like, dude, I'm there now. Let's just do it. So, got ready, got all my stuff together for class and all that stuff. We get Friday night, we go down to Austin. It's 90 something degrees. Like everybody's sweating, and we fly out of Austin straight into Chicago, where it is like 5 degrees, and we get off, and one of the cheerleaders, I'll never forget, she gets off wearing like a short sleeve shirt, sweatpants, and flip flops. And she's like, "Why is it so cold? It was hot this morning." I'm like, dude, we were in Austin. This is Chicago. So I'm just gonna spill all the stuff that would have been so great to just save for the book, but we're just gonna go for it. We go to a Subway, and we're trying to get out of this parking lot not far from the airport, and we see this van, and these three curly-headed dudes go out of this van into a Subway. And shout out to Derek Dunaway, who was driving our van. He like almost screeches to a halt. He goes, "Dude, did you see that?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "That was the Jonas Brothers." I was like, "Who are the like?" Keep in mind,
What?
2007. Okay, so I'm like, "Who the heck are the Jonas Brothers?" He's like, "Dude, they've been on MTV and all this," and only like half the van knew who they were, but the half that knew were like, "We're going back. If that was the Jonas Brothers, we're going back." So we turned around, and sure enough, I see this big giant van that's like this. If I remember, it was like the three of them kind of laying on their sides in sweaters. Like it was like somebody took a Christmas card, a picture of them. It was like the Jonas Brothers, as seen on whatever. And we go up, and like two or three of the girls go inside, and they came out and said, "No, they said they're not the Jonas Brothers. They just work for them." And I've since gone back to look and realized that they did play around there at that time. It could have been them, but I don't think so, because it's like you're on tour and these college cheerleaders just walked up to you. You're not going to say you're not the Jonas Brothers if you're the Jonas Brothers. So I don't think it was them, but we continued on. We finally get into Wisconsin. We all go to bed. Scandalous on UMHB terms. They didn't have enough rooms. There were like 2 rooms for the whole cheer squad. And so they had to bring in a cot because there was a big argument on which room the dude got to go in.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I handled it very appropriately. I get on the cot and I like lay and do the Jeff Goldblum thing. I was like, "So who wants to lay over here with me?" Like I was like, let's take an awkward situation and just make it worse, because I'm good at that. So
that checks out.
Yep.
so I get a text message from Derek, and he's like, he's already over it. He's like, "Dude, I'm leaving at 7 to go to breakfast. You in?" I'm like, "Bro, let's go." So I get up the next morning. I get ready. I pack up Crunk in the bag, and I just go, and we get in the van. It's -2 degrees, and yeah, there's snow everywhere. We go to McDonald's, which just makes it worse. And for all our listeners, fun fact, I haven't eaten McDonald's in almost 12 years. So we pull up, and we've got Green Bay Sports Radio, and I'm like, this is already weird. Like, this is just the weirdest thing. Get breakfast. We go back. We at the hotel, everyone's starting to eat breakfast. And by eating breakfast, I mean Jerry Bauckham is sitting there, and he and I are just hanging out, and the crew people are standing around. The Whitewater fans who were at the hotel also had breakfast, which was ripping open like 330 cases on the tables.
Oh,
and
gosh.
Steve Theodore and I kind of turn around, and he looks at me and goes, "We're not in Belton, are we?" I was like, "No, we're not." So they were going hard, and we get in the van, we go and drive. We had to drive like another hour. I don't know where we were, but it was pretty far off. So it was some cool countryside, because it was kind of like those rolling, I wouldn't even call them hills, but it was almost like waves of pastures, but covered in snow. And we finally get to town, and we pass through. The only thing about Whitewater we really saw were all the frat houses. And I don't know if y'all went over to that area, but there was like just kind of like, at A&M, they have that block of them. There was just a whole road that was nothing but frat houses. And we go past there to the parking lot. And when we pull into the parking lot, we realize how grossly outnumbered we are. The tailgating y'all were talking about, it was the lot was full. And I think it was the same lot y'all posted the picture of, but it was just one end to the other. So we get out, and they're already cussing us out at the van. I mean, people are just walking by like, "Go back to Texas, you effing whatever," like they're just, I was like,
Oh, dang.
"This is bad." Yeah. So we get out, and among all the verbal abuse, which this guy wearing a Union soldier outfit walks by and goes, and just like walks on. I'm like, okay, Cool
Was
suit,
he the
bro.
cannon guy?
I don't know what his deal was, but I hear this voice scream across the parking lot, Garrett Smith, I love you, man. I love you. And I was like, who just yelled? I look, and Randy McSwain is walking through all these people. And I was like,
Of course it is.
I love you too, bro. You know, so
Did
it
he
was kind
just
of like
road trip up there?
well, his sister, I think, worked for the school at the time or something like that. Or his
Well, his
brother-in-law.
brother-in-law was still playing, wasn't he? Or was he already
I
done?
don't think so, but I think he still had something he did with the I don't remember. It's been too long, but we walked there, and then Dawson and Tinda showed up. Carrie Owens. I actually hung out at the Austin airport with Dawson and Carrie and T the night before. There's a picture somewhere of us having like a fake sword fight in the middle of the Austin airport. But yeah, we go in, and I still have to change into the mascot. And I was like, well, it's freezing cold, and there's some like porta potties. I guess I can make this work. Well, I walk over to him, and the security guard steps and he's like, no. I was like, it's the visitor side, and I got to change. He's like, well, you're not doing it. I was like, gee, all right. I was like, well, where is the bathroom? He goes, other side, go, get out. It's like, okay, cool, man. There's something going on in the bathroom I don't need to know about. Like, I walk all the way to the home side because their fans aren't in the stadium yet. Walk all the way up the stairs, go all the way around. I go into the bathroom, and I unzip the bag, and I pull out Crunk's head, and this guy is at the urinal, and in this thick Yankee accent, he's like, the hell is that? I was like, I'm the mascot. He goes, well, you're today, aren't you? And I just look up at him and go, bro, I'm about to be the warmest guy in the stadium. I don't know what you're talking about. So I start to put the suit on, and the whole marching band, male and female, just make their way into the bathroom to warm up while people are peeing. And I was like, this is strange. So I get suited up, and then I beeline out. And as I'm halfway through down the steps, I had to take a right to go all the way to the front. The students were running in as a whole. So the entire student section's on foot, and they see me. And that's when I had a plate of or a little thing of nachos flew by this side, and a drink barely missed. It got like the feather on the helmet and like flew by the other side. And I heard someone yell, get him. So it was like, I like pulled up the Crunk used to have, they didn't give me a cool outfit like the current guy. I had to pull up this like skirt thing and just start sprinting down the steps, hoping I didn't slip on the ice. Cause I was like, I'm not dealing with this. So I go to the other side. I'm finally back on the home side, and already like the only thing people are talking about, and it's like 20 minutes before the game, is just like how awful the other side's fans were. Because we heckled people, but we weren't profane about it. We just made jokes. We Googled jokes and then used them at the game. It was just like whatever. We were getting the F-bomb thrown at us like every 5 seconds. So we finally fill up, their side fills up, and like y'all were saying earlier, it's a big stadium, and they didn't fill like the top part of either end. I think there was like a section on each end they had closed off because there was too much snow, and they had just like shoveled everything to the side, but the middle portion was completely packed. And about that time is when there's like this the front rail on the visitor side, there's like a drop off before it goes to the sideline. There was no drop off because it was a massive snowbank. So most of the time that the cheerleaders were doing their thing, I was standing on a snowbank in the mascot suit for most of it. And Dawson and I came up with this plan that if we won, we were just gonna go stomping, like we're gonna go stomp Texas over in the like end zone in the snow or something. And it was the rest of the game went as it went. It was about like the one y'all were at, except worse. We weren't. Y'all's is more of a heartbreaker. This one was just, we couldn't even catch up. And the weather was getting to us. And the whole time, I mean, I have never heard the F-bomb chanted that many times at a game except in Austin in 2011. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I had these little kids who could not have been older than like 7 or 8 years old cussing at me and throwing stuff while I was in the mascot thing. I won't repeat what was yelled, but Dawson came over and barked something very loudly at them and scared them half to death. So where most of them ran away, but one kid wouldn't. And so finally I had to make sure I timed this right. I had this foam sword. I just like slung it at him, missed him on purpose, but it lifted his glasses. And he went like this, and he just takes off running. So it was they went away until Whitewater kicked the game sealing kick, and those kids came back and dropped a few derogatory slurs at me. And that was kind of my trip in the stadium. When we were leaving, though, I think it was, with the possible exception of Mississippi College 2010 or 09, this was that it was the most depressing feeling because
Mm.
I don't think it was the first time I'd ever seen our players and Coach Pete with that look on their face. The parents were crying, some of the players were crying. I mean, it was just rough and cold, and we were all hungry. So we get out of there. It was no longer 0 degrees, but it may have well have been. And the one credit I'll give to their fans is they marched in a fraternity. It was like all their pledges, and they had them wearing elf hats and Speedos and like jingle bells, and that was it.
Nice.
And
Of course.
they marched them in the first quarter. Our fans and theirs were like clapping. We're like, yes, that's awesome. But they stayed the whole time. I mean, I don't know how they didn't get hypothermia. And we finally leave. We head straight for the airport. Like we're headed back to Chicago, but we stop at Olive Garden. And I mean, people are like already heckling us. And the waitress comes by and she's like, you want some more cheese on your lasagna? Because you may have noticed we like our cheese up here. And I'm like, shut up. And but she walks around and starts just cranking that lever. And I was like, okay, I'm good. She's like, no, you need a little more. I'm like, I'm going to slap that thing out of your hand if you don't stop. So
I am refusing cheese the rest of this week. Thank you.
I could never do that.
Boycotting cheese for the rest of the week.
It was kind of like y'all, y'all hightailed it out of there. We kind of did too. I mean, we wanted to get out. We were sick of it, but we got on the plane and headed right back. And I had a great rest of the semester after that.
Well, and that leads us to 2008. So you get to 08, and if you've been there, you kind of have an understanding of the hatred that's been going on. A lot of the people who went up there came back with those, and you weren't the only one that, I heard stories from both T and Dawson as well about just the way they were treated. And then, we got bullied around a bit. But you know what? We've had a great year. We're hosting the semifinal in our house, I believe for the first time ever.
Yes.
One went away from going back to the Stag Bowl for the first time since 2004.
And it was televised.
Yeah, televised. Big, exciting game. And this is my freshman year. Every year, we had your freshman year in 2006 with that first game, Andy's freshman year with that playoff game. And now we're to my freshman year.
Yeah, let's ruin your freshman year now.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited. I'm wanting to be part of the couch crew, and but y'all two need to tell your story leading up to
this one. I think
what happened
starts with me. Now, keep in mind, it's a longer story than this podcast can tell, and there was a lot. There was a whole domino rally that led to this moment, but to put that all in a very short blip, some people got their panties in a wad, and
let's back up a little bit. I want to hear Andy tell about.
You're gonna let that be the last phrase I say before.
First off, actually, I got to go back even a day before that. It's Monday afternoon. I'm sitting in my apartment, and I get a phone call. I'm not gonna say who it is because they are still very high up in the university, but they tell me, we know, you have your horn. And he says, I know we can't take it in the stadium because that's against the rules. He goes, but is there any way you could strategically place your truck right behind their stand, so every time we score, we can set it off, and it's not in the stadium, so it doesn't count, but it goes off right in their ears? And I go, absolutely, I can do that.
But when we try it in Seguin, we get the cops threatening to arrest us.
So we've already got someone who's high up in the university telling us do some mischief.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, cool.
So let's just say the precedent was not set by me.
No, it was not.
As that's happening, all this about the same time, Tyler wants to get involved with Couch Crew. Andy's getting this call from, I won't say the name. I was dealing with a transitional phase of the Couch Crew where a lot of regulations got slapped on us. I mean, we're talking a book this thick that we had to read from the NCAA. They can take that book and shove it and give our 2016 title back. But there was a lot of behind the scenes political stuff that people didn't know about and still don't know about when they ask me about it. So we were about to get regulated out of existence over the next 2 years. And I got so sick of it one night that I'm doing homework. And I look at my roommate, who almost got to be on this episode with us tonight, couldn't quite schedule it, but I look at my roommate, Nathan Berryman, and I just, with no context, go, I'm sick of all this PCBS and ruining the school. And he doesn't even question. He just turns around and goes, me too, what's up? So So I tell him, I was like, we're going to war, dude. Like, we're not going to let people from behind the other side of the desk subdue us. We're going to go to war. And what ended up happening was we put together a PowerPoint presentation with a plan of assembling our own Ocean's 13 that would somehow, if we could find someone who knew how to do this, which we did, find the hotel that Whitewater's football team was staying at. And we were going to make sure they didn't sleep well that night. That's what it boils down to. It involved alumni. I won't name any of the
We were being bankrolled by alumni.
We were being bankrolled by
Yes.
about 5 or 6 alums who were also very fed up with what they were hearing about the politics at the time. And we had the money secured to get a hotel room in Killeen.
So, Andy, how did we find out where they were staying?
Wait. Before that, so the plan was if we could find where they were staying, we were going to rent the room. We were going to be watching The Dark Knight because it had just come out on DVD. And it was and it's still just the greatest movie from my college era. But we had phases. So we had another roommate and a female friend who were going to check in as a married couple, and then they were going to let the rest of the crew through the back door up the stairs to the room. And whenever we figured out where the team was, the first group was going to dispatch, and they were going to sing the tune of "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," but it was "We Wish You a Merry Trip Home" while we were on TV outside of Lance Leopold's door. And then they were going to run off and rock chalk. They were going to hit a bunch of doors on their way out and go. Well, and we were going to have them like take the stairs in a way that didn't look like it was from our room. I don't know. It seemed foolproof, but it definitely was not. And then the rest of us would watch Dark Knight or whatever, but we were going to, every like 15, 20 minutes or so, we were going to have a different person call a noise complaint on the football hall to the front desk so that the front desk would contact the coaches. Coaches would get mad. They would holler at the players. So without us even making noise, we were going to make sure that they kept waking up. And at 4 a.m, the plan was have everything packed up, have the two that posed as the married couple go check out because they were so mad about the noise. They couldn't sleep because of the football players. And they were going to get the getaway car ready. And the rest of us who were behind were going to take air horns, run down the hall, and just wake everyone up. Well, someone got too excited. To this day, I actually don't. I'm not just covering for someone. I really don't know who got too excited.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, the word got out, basically. And there were people in my class, one of whom was a good friend of mine, who thought about calling it in because they were just so mad about the image and all that stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to shut it down. I told everybody it was shut down. And then I tell Nathan, we're going to revive it, but we need the rumor that it wasn't a real plan or that it shut down to go first. And before I hand the ball off to Andy, I will say that when it came time to bring people back in, most people were scared to death to have anything to do with it, that it took on a new form. And I will pass it to Andy now.
Okay, yeah. So you kind of tell me, hey, can you figure out where they are and do whatever you can? Because I guess I was always the guy who found out things. So
not that I had you looking at West Texas A&M's undergraduate enrollment.
Exactly. So I just like, what am I going to do? How am I going to figure this out? So I go to their athletic website. And I'm just like, what can I find? Where can I go? Who can I talk to? And I find it's their administration page, and there's emails on everybody's name. And I go, well, I'm not going to email like the head coach because that would be ridiculous. So I find the guy that says Director of Football Operations. And I'm like, that sounds like a good enough name that I could get some information. So I'm like, all right, I have his email. Now, what am I going to say in this email to make it sound like I need to know where they are? And so it's 2:30 in the morning. My brain apparently figures out, hey, I'll just send an email to this guy saying, I'm an alumni now living in Texas and want to stay with the team. And yeah, so I send this email. It's like almost 3 a.m. that this email gets sent out. It's like, and I probably used the name like John Smith or something, like, just basic name. And I'm like, I'm living in Corpus Christi now. Went to the game last year in Salem. Live in the long distance fandom, and I want to be at the same place. And just let me know. Thanks. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get a response. No way. Because it's 3 a.m. Who sends an email like that at 3 a.m.? Well, so I go to sleep.
I didn't know it was that late either. How
it was
did
that
they,
late. It
how
was
did
that
they
late.
respond?
I wake up the next day for, I guess, whatever class, maybe a 1 o'clock class, because I think I randomly did not have class that morning. And I had an email sitting there at 6:30 a.m. So like 3.5 hours later, he had responded saying, "We're at the in Killeen. Thanks for the long distance fandom. See you Saturday." And I was like, "You've
Yes,
got to
you
be
will.
kidding me." I'm like, "There's no way that just happened."
Keep in mind, y'all, I asked Andy like at night, can you find this for us this week? Sometime. I get up for like an 8 or 9 o'clock class. I've got a text like, here it is.
It was amazing. We all kind of jokingly compared this to like a Mission Impossible movie or like an Ocean's movie. The team assembling. Andy was like that perfect, just like on the computer guy. Like it was great. And so
it may have been my best work.
Yeah, it really was. And
outside of the Justin Feaster signs.
Yeah, those are great. And so Garrett's really, he's like if we want to make the A-Team reference, he's like the face, or no, not face. What's his name?
Liam Neeson's character. I don't remember.
Yeah. It's, I love it when a plan
Hannibal
comes together.
Yeah, Hannibal.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And so he's like assembling this team, and I am like freshman, really like couch grub, decided like that's what I think is the coolest thing. I want to prove myself. There were a lot of really funny, really loud, really out there freshmen at the time, and I'm like, how do I like get myself noticed? Because if you don't know, I'm like, if I'm in a crowd of people that I know really well, I can be really loud and like blah, 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 blah. But if I'm around people I don't know, like I'm very quiet, I'm very reserved. So how do I, elevate myself? But I'd get to know Garrett a little bit. And I knew, like, if I ever have an opportunity, I will say yes to anything. Like, I will be the guy who will do anything. And I'm studying for finals in the lobby of McLean. And Garrett comes up to me. We're not like really good friends at this point. We really just know each other.
We were acquaintances. Like we ran into each other.
We were friendly acquaintances. Yeah. And I would say this is really the birth of the actual friendship.
Yeah.
But you come up to me, you kind of turn on your heels and you walk over and you say, "Tyler, how dedicated are you?" And at that moment I was like, I'm in.
Here we go.
I didn't need to say no more. I'm in. And he basically regales to me everything.
I had to pull him as there were people around. I had to like walk Tyler to a hallway and be like, this is quiet.
Yeah. And so he regales to me basically everything that we just said. And I kind of remember the story a little bit differently, in that when you brought me in, the plan was still the full shebang and everything.
It was. It was.
Okay,
it hadn't gotten called off yet.
Yeah, but we had the big pep rally the night before. And we were all just sitting around your apartment going like, we're just mad that this fell through. You know what? Let's just go.
Just do it.
So we like loaded up. Was it in my excursion? Right?
I think so, but you weren't driving.
That's right. I remember like someone was in the back, like
you were in the very back making signs, and I told you what to write. I was like, "Here, freshman, do another one." Like acting like I'm the junior and he's the freshman. Like it's so funny because like we're friends now, and like at the time that was like, "Here you go, do this."
It was very much a little bit of a hazing situation.
Be the guinea pig.
Yeah. And so we load up the excursion full of I don't know how many people.
It was. The only name I'll drop besides us was Nathan.
But there was more.
There was code name Papa Bear, and then another individual that we lived with at the time, and then the woman who was going to be the wife whenever we checked in. That was our crew.
So we get out there. We go buy some air horns at the Walmart and the sign stuff, and we start driving out there.
Were you nervous yet, by the way?
I don't remember. I don't remember being nervous until I actually like started walking in the hotel.
Yeah, same.
And so we go out there and we kind of scout out the lobby, and then we're like, you know what? We just got to do this.
So we pull the way we scouted though. It was I wanted to go in there, but I'm dressed in like everyday. No offense meant to anyone. I didn't look like Colleen at the middle of the night. Papa Bear, he was a bigger guy than me. And so we had this idea. It was like, hey, give me your hoodie and toboggan because it'll be too big on me and everything will just be sagging. So I walked through the lobby and I quickly realized I should have just kept my normal clothes on because it was so nice in that lobby. And the front desk worker's like, "Hello, how are you this evening?" I'm like, "Sup?" So I walk in and the first two hallways I see are just long. And we tried to find out which rooms were the hotel players in advance because I called and I rehearsed the thickest northern accent I could. And I claimed to be a booster who wanted to put good luck gift baskets outside all the rooms. And they gave me kind of a vague answer, but it didn't fully pinpoint it down.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just going to hang a right and we'll see what I can find. And so I snag like a do not disturb tag on my way out, just like souvenir. And I go up the stairs, I start checking the halls, and I'm like, I don't know which one it is. And then eventually it's like, there's a hall. I think that this whole hallway is do not disturb tags. I think this is it.
Yeah.
And so I go back down, and at that point, it's like, we only have 2 air horns. So it's like, well, which 2 are going to go? And Tyler's pretty much like, I'll do it.
Do it.
And Nathan
joined up.
And I think the rationale was, okay, Garrett's been in the hotel, so someone's seen him already. Nathan is the fastest runner. This is the best way to do it. And so then it was, y'all.
So we go up there. We find the hall with just every single door has these do not disturb. And y'all, I cannot express how long the hall looked. It was like, dude, awful. I'd like, if we start running now, I was pretty quick at the time. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get out of the hotel from the people that first heard me and be able to get out in time. Like, I was just like, that's really when I started freaking out. I'm like,
never ending hallway.
I was a little scared
to be running. And so
in retrospect, I would have told y'all to start in the middle and like fan out.
But... There you go. Yeah. Well, so we just go just running down the hall as quick as we can. We hit the stairwell, we run out, and just keep in mind how just hyped up we are, how much adrenaline we have, like hearts pounding, right? We get out, and the first thing we see is police lights. And obviously this makes no sense, but from our perspective, like initially was, oh my gosh, they're coming for us. And y'all are nowhere to be found. And we're just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then the excursion or whatever it was comes flying around the corner. And you're like, get in. We jump in and y'all start telling us about something y'all witnessed while we were up there.
It was bad. So keep in mind, even though I had found where I thought their hall was, Nathan and Tyler, I think y'all went like to the top floor or something. Y'all started just to be sure. They start looking around to see any other signs of another hall being it. Because waking up half a Colleen for no reason would just be stupid. So while we're in the car, we realize we're parked in too obvious of a spot. So we kind of pull over to the side and we back up against the wall. And we hear a lot of yelling and screaming across the road. And we're like, this is escalating. And sometimes you hear a tone and you realize something's not right. One of the people in the car was going through a miniature freak out at this point. Like I thought that person was going to have some sort of panic attack. And we start looking out the back window and it's these 2 groups that are getting louder and louder and yelling at each other. And they were like, one of us pointing at another one with something. It wasn't a gun, but it could have easily been a knife or a bottle or something. And suddenly there's a scream and the 2 groups just converge on each other like Braveheart. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a gang fight breaking out. And we're like 30 yards away. And so I text Nathan and Tyler. I was like, new plan, start at the top and wake up every hallway. Just go down every floor. And Tyler texted me back. He goes, no need. We just found the hall. And so at that point, they did their thing. And we roll down the window. We're trying to listen to see if we can hear the air horns, which you can't in a building that thick. But all we heard was just the fight and sirens coming. When the sirens started coming, that's when the dude having the panic attack got even worse. And we see the side door of the hotel burst open, and these 2 bodies just like, it was like when the Millennium Falcon and the X-Wing went their different ways. I mean, they just like scattered. But these 2 guys are running like greased lightning through the night. And you can just see they're like running around like, where is it? So we peel out. I mean, we like roll around. They jump in the car and we peel out. And somebody yelled something towards Whitewater as we were leaving, and then that was it. I was like, well, we did it. They're going to be too tired to play. This is great. They were not too tired to play.
If only.
Yeah. Kicked our butts.
Kicked our butts, and we were tired.
If it weren't for that kickoff.
Oh,
ruling,
yeah.
We had that game, in my opinion.
I was talking earlier about the whole
out front of his office for like so long. Yeah.
What if Colt McCoy hadn't gotten hurt? Ours is what if the refs had a brain when they were calling that game? It wasn't even an onside kick. It was a normal kick, but the wind was so hard that it brought it back, and it was still outside of 10 yards. The Temple Daily Telegram posted a picture, circled the ball. The refs were wrong. Like, the evidence is there, case closed. They give it to Whitewater. They score with the wind. They get one more, and then we switch for the fourth quarter where we're going into the wind, and it's just
we fell apart.
We couldn't, downhill. We couldn't do it. And that one is a game where people who hadn't been to a game since their freshman year were suddenly back in the couch crew section, and it got so infuriating at the end that when we were chanting "You're full of crap," some people took it upon themselves to yell, "You're full of," and so these people who hadn't seen a game since their freshman year and they were seniors, and were all like, this is offensive. So obviously they went and complained on Monday, but it was
although
like,
I will say some of the people starting those obscene chants, let's just say they had quite a few classes around the Myers building.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally. It was the Christian Studies Brigade, man. It was bad. But I will say we still had the air horns the next morning. We had like 2 hours of sleep. I text Tyler, I was like, dude, we just want to wake everybody up for this thing. So we went through Getty's and McLean, and we did every hallway upstairs in town.
Oh, how did we not get killed for that? It's those painful losses like that made 2016, 2018, and 2021 so special, especially 2018 beating Whitewater.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. It's just that's what makes it worth it. That's since those painful memories make everything so much sweeter.
Since my wife's in the other room, I will tell you that, a few years later when we played them, I think 2013, the first year of the stadium, so keep in mind, freshmen in 2009 never had the Whitewater experience. I can't even remember why. Either we didn't meet in playoffs or they had an off year or something. I don't remember.
We didn't meet them for the entire time in between.
Right. Yeah, and so fast forward 4 more years, we all meet up in Belton, and I'm like telling all these stories to Hannah. I'm like, you get to be a part of history when we finally beat them. And Hannah will follow games. Like, she's not a diehard fan, but I mean, she's quiet in general, but she's like a quiet fan. She'll at least know what's going on. And I remember we're driving to go get dinner after that awful game, and she just goes, why don't we just go for it? And I was like, I know, right? Like,
yeah.
You're telling me.
That was the first game that I really thought of after the game we just played, because one game we really lost because we didn't go for it on fourth down, and another game we lost because we did.
Is that our only loss at Crusader Stadium? Period.
No. We've lost a couple others.
Who else beat us?
Linfield has beaten us in the playoffs.
They beat us at home.
Have they?
Yeah. It was Thanksgiving of 14. That Saturday.
That was
that was the year. That was the next year.
Oh, okay? That's yeah. You're right.
Anyone listening who's not familiar with UMHB, we're really good. We can't remember our last home losses.
Well, that's a great thing.
Take note, Jimbo.
So, yeah. Well, it sucked that we lost, but we've lost these others in the past, and we'll come out. I think we'll probably see them again in the playoffs. My prediction is that we beat them in the semifinals or the Stag Bowl. I'd like to play them in the Stag Bowl, but
also
it's important to note when we've also lost.
We've lost to Whitewater a second time at home as well.
Yeah,
that happened.
That's true.
That was in
19. Yeah.
19, that's right. It is worth noting, though, after all these stories and just dying to beat this team, and keep in mind, for any current students who hear this, it was such a big deal that when we did interviews for who the couch crew captains were going to be going into my senior year, one of the questions in that interview was, who do you hate more, Hardin-Simmons or Wisconsin-Whitewater, and why? And almost everybody had a different answer. So that's how heated this was. But it's important to note, after all these stories, that when the day came that we finally did beat them, we were there. We watched it in person. We weren't.
It was beautiful.
Yeah,
it was beautiful.
And the right after the prank, I remember I went home for Christmas, and we weren't in the Stag Bowl. It was a bummer. And I'm sitting at Buffalo's Southwest Bar and Grill in Canyon with a couple of my old summer work friends, and we were playing Whitewater and basketball. And I think Tyler may have been at that game.
Yeah, well, because I had a sign they wanted to come take a picture with.
It was UNT, and I just remember I'm sitting there at the bar that night with these two, and I get this text on my phone, and I open it, and it's a text from Tatenda that just says verbatim, "We finally beat those punks."
I can't even remember. I had a sign that what Wisconsin people thought was so funny they wanted to come take a picture of, and I don't remember what it was, but I do know it had to do with Brett Favre because there was some controversy going on with Favre at the time.
Oh yeah.
And I get real defensive when they came up on me just because of all those stories. They're like, "Oh no, we just want to take a picture." I'm like, "Okay, y'all come on." Yeah,
don't believe you.
Yeah,
I gotta ask y'all now that you've been up there. Are you in any hurry to ever go back again, or are you like,
Hell no.
no, it's my whole deal is there's just a couple of bucket list places I want to go to. The next number one on my list is St. John's.
Oh wow.
I want to go to Alliance. I'd love to go to Linfield. Just beautiful stadium up there.
Not after what B Tuck told me.
So
Bryson Tucker said he was doing his pregame prayer in the end zone, and some guy from Linfield yells, "God doesn't effing love you. Get out of here."
I mean, is that any worse than me telling somebody they're going to hell?
No, because I think you were right. And you did it cleanly without an F-bomb.
There you go.
To be fair,
Andy
was replying.
Prayer,
yeah,
right?
Andy was yelling at a guy who pretended to pray and then stood up and flipped us off. So I think you were a little more valid.
Just a little bit.
A little.
No, I don't think I'll ever go back to Wisconsin, with the exception of maybe going to Lambeau, and that is it.
I would go to Lambeau.
I don't want to go back to that state.
No, it was. So imagine y'all's experience in -2 degrees.
No. See, that's the other reason I jumped.
That's why I was like, y'all have fun. I'm good. But like you said, even though it was a loss, it wasn't a bad memory. I talk like it was going into a mix of Mordor and Hoth, but really, I had a good time.
Yeah.
It was the best time I'd had in like 2 weeks. No regrets.
Yeah, I think that's the magic of these sort of trips. You just make memories, and even if it's a bad memory, it's like it just fans and inflame your hatred of the team. That then when you do beat him, it just makes it all better. So I love going on these trips, good or bad.
I hope people are enjoying this episode, because if we've kind of talked, and I'm spilling a little bit of beans here, about having a Friar Tuck Boy series. And where we have an episode, which at that point will be Andy's fourth, but we get each of the guys from the Tuck Bros. And if you're sitting there thinking, who the heck are the every kind of generation of UMHB had the notorious dudes on campus, and at that time it was us. And I got a text the other day from Kane Taylor asking when he's going to be on the podcast. Nathan, we were texting earlier, he's ready to go on here. I want to get Brett Myers on here and talk about his coaching career, because he's had some fun stories with that. I got to go to one of his games, and I almost got in trouble at the game. So it was not for raiding the hotel, just because I yelled something about a juggernaut to a ref.
Nice.
But yeah, it's all the guys. It would be a good series. So that's at some point, I think that'll probably, and then get us all on here like the Avengers. Like just finish that phase of the MCU.
Garrett, you'll appreciate this. Right after that game ended, I got a text message from a certain somebody who told me to make sure we burned down the city before we left.
And I said, no, we don't burn things.
We don't talk about that. We don't. Disclaimer, everyone, we never set fire to anyone else's school.
Anything.
Kane Taylor and I set fire on our own campus. That's a totally different story for a different day. Twice.
Yeah. Wisconsin was not burning.
No, it was not. Or melting.
Well, I know we lost, but I think we should end on a note of, win or lose, it doesn't matter, because Wisconsin-Whitewater still sucks.